What's up, everybody? Welcome to Mixtapes. I'm your host, Eric Stang. On the right next to me, as always, is my co-host, Mr. Mark Moots. Mark, what's going on this morning, my friend?
Hey man, well, I got my coffee, and we're going to talk about one of the greatest bands ever with a guy who knows virtually everything.
Uh,
So
yeah,
this is
pre-
going to be exciting.
yeah, pretty much. And we've had Martin on the show a couple times. So if you want to learn all about Martin himself, go back into the archives, check out the interview I did with him. It was really, really cool and insightful. But today we're talking about Kiss 76, 12 months that define the hottest band in the land. And there's the book right there, folks, on the video. You can see that. It is really an impressive and crazy, interesting time. And I can't wait to break this down with our guest, Mr. Martin Popoff. How are you doing today, sir?
Hey, doing okay. Thanks for having me, guys. Very cool.
Awesome.
Absolutely. So, Kiss 76, how do you end up writing it? Because I think it's such a smart idea for a book because it really does, that band really blows up in that year. People always think Alive, or even when they came out, but they don't understand that, there was a lot of stop, start, stop, start. We're almost going to get dropped from the label. Alive kind of saves their career, and then they just head off into the stratosphere. So, talk to us about how you got the idea to write the book.
Yeah, so Cordo likes having these different concepts. I mean, I don't know who came up with album by album. It might even been me that did the first one of those, but I've done a bunch of those now. And then there's the at 50 and the at
Yep.
75. I've done Guns N' Roses at 40, AC/DC at 50, Van Halen at 50, Bowie at 75. But this I'm pretty sure was my idea. And I've just kind of got the thought that it's neat to go really granular on a short topic. I remember years ago just cruising through the bookstore, seeing a book on one Led Zeppelin tour, and I thought, well, that's kind of cool. Um, and then lo and behold, later on, I did a couple of books for Cordo on just like one album. I did a Who one and a Pink Floyd one. So this one, you're right. They enter 76 touring Kiss Alive. So the funny thing is they're kind of touring Kiss Alive, which is not really touring Kiss Alive. It's really touring Dress to Kill, but maybe it's touring the first three albums. Then Destroyer comes out in March, and they're now touring Destroyer. And then the originals come out in July, and now they're touring the first three albums again. And then Rock and Roll Over comes out in November, or hang on, October. I'm starting to forget these things. I think November, and now they're touring Rock and Roll Over. So they tour their entire catalog in 1976. And the Kiss Army happens. You've got the inserts in Destroyer that gets you going down that path as well. So it's just a huge, huge year for them.
It is kind of weird to
Yeah.
think that they toured a live album.
Yeah, I love that concept. I might even do some sort of a conceptual podcast episode or something on that because that happens a lot. Bands tour live albums, they tour singles, they tour greatest hits albums. So it's kind of a neat thing to think about. Yeah.
Did they do that back then, though? Or is that like you know what I mean? Like I know bands could do that now, but was that a thing back then a lot or no? That a band would tour a
I don't know
live?
about a lot, but I could swear I can even think of some names of tours that are named after bands' recent live album.
Right,
So,
right.
I guess it does kind of happen from a business standpoint. I suppose what you're doing is you're touring whatever new product you've got out. The
Sure.
record company is just a record to the record company. And the other thing we got to remember is back then, um, the uh, the economics was flipped a little bit in that record sales were a big deal and ticket prices were ridiculously low. It was just a whole different business model, and they just did not charge you a lot to go see a band live. So the going out and playing live was to promote the recorded product.
Now, they didn't owe the label a live album, did they? Or because that's kind of crazy to think the live album is basically if this doesn't hit, you guys are done. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's not that they owed him one, but I know the story goes that they didn't have enough money to send them into the studio, so they just
Oh,
said this is cheaper to do. And yet, Neil and Joyce Bogart, they're entrepreneurial, and Bill Aucoin's entrepreneurial. The band is entrepreneurial, so everybody's rolling the dice and spending a lot. I mean, they're essentially pouring all their money back into the stage show, or in the case of the record label, a gatefold with inserts and all sorts of things. So there's ads. There's a lot of ads all the time. I remember growing up through that era and just seeing Kiss ads, on the back cover of Circus or Cream or in the inside back cover. It's always color. So yeah, I can't even picture black and white ads for Kiss albums actually before, starting at Alive, moving forward kind of thing. So yeah, it literally saved the company in the nick of time. You hear those stories about Bill Aucoin, mortgaging his house and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, everybody's doing rock and roll. Everybody's rolling the dice.
Yeah, I mean, I remember reading something years ago about how Bill had essentially maxed out all of his American Express cards and everything, and like this was Alive was sort of the last ditch effort. And the theory being that Kiss was such a spectacle and a force live that the first three albums really don't capture that energy or that experience. And the roll of the dice was that, well, if we can get the show on tape, maybe that will sell to the masses, the Kiss experience. And I guess it definitely worked.
Yeah, and a couple of key things about it. It's notoriously thought of as one of the albums that leaves the crowd in super loud as you go. So it sounds like Beatlemania throughout, and that iconic, front cover shot. Whoever looks like that live, that kind of configuration. It's a weird looking picture, and of course it's staged, but it's a great looking live shot as well.
Well,
so yeah,
but it was impossible to ignore. Like, if you were flipping through the record bins and you saw that, you at least paused and picked it up and thought, what is going on here?
Yeah.
And probably more so than, not that the first three album covers weren't interesting, but like, yeah, like you said, like what band looks like that? And obviously nobody does because they posed, but just an enormous impact. And I mean, I discovered them weirdly, I probably about mid 76 is when I came in, but I was only 6 years old.
Wow.
Yeah. And like that, I was a card carrying Kiss Army member by about probably 78.
Yeah.
And I followed them through the good and the bad for a long time,
And you might have made a record there, Mark. You might be the youngest one,
Well, I don't know. I mean, I wasn't the only one of my friends that maybe at 6, 7, 8 I was. And my parents certainly didn't understand, and that's okay. They didn't have to. They allowed it.
Yeah.
Bless them. That's great. So Eric passed off the book to me last night, and I was looking through it, and it's beautiful, and like the pictures are killer, which seems to be a thing with Corto. Like all the books I've seen, or the presentation's lovely, but this is a really impressive tome, and it takes you through so many interesting things, and a lot of it for me is there's some memory lane here too, seeing all this stuff. But like I'll be putting pictures up on the screen when we edit, Martin. Don't worry about it. But there are pictures of all the like color magazine ads that you're talking about, and I think Kiss was smart because they kind of embraced that, like, if you build it, they will come attitude, and like if you act like you're the biggest band in the world, you will be perceived as such.
I love that you say that, because those ads always gave us that vibe as kids, right? It was like there's not a lot of hype text in it. They're not really selling you on it. They're just, here's a picture of the cover, it's coming, and on a black background, and they had this sort of sober conservative look to them all. And they all lined up, and so growing up in small town Trail, British Columbia, this looked like an absolutely huge band with a massive company behind them, kind of thing.
Yeah, it looked very like factual.
Yeah,
like you say, it wasn't hype. It was just like, this is happening, and you want to be in on this. So smart of them, even especially when it wasn't even fucking true for a while.
Yeah, which is a great point. I mean. And 76 is a big milestone for the band. We talked about that in the intro to the show, but if you really think about it, they put out 2 studio records in 74. They put out Dressed to Kill in 75, right? And then 76 is Rock and Roll Over, right? If I'm correct. and
Yeah,
then
and Alive, of course, in 75 as well,
right,
right?
right. But like, and then Destroyer obviously is ginormous too.
Yeah.
Do you think that 1-2 punch of Alive and then following it up with like a Destroyer and bringing Bob Ezrin in, like, do you think that was an enormous thing for that band to just catapult them into the next couple of years and Alive 2, essentially?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, Alive is this, produced by Eddie Kramer kind of thing. But then so it's a very different animal from Destroyer. Destroyer is them going very smarty pants, and Bob Ezrin comes in and he basically gives them the follow-up to Welcome to My Nightmare in a way.
Hmm.
Um, and he puts in a lot of ear candy, and there's a lot of dynamics. I used to, as kids, this has gone with me through since I was a kid, but we had albums that were for lack of a better term, uniform albums, and albums that were dynamics albums. And the first three Kiss albums are kind of the same volume all the way through, and then Destroyer was like really good and complicated and cool and heavy down to almost inaudible. Beth is so quiet, and Great Expectations is quiet. So yeah, it was a peaks and valleys, dynamic sort of album. And like I say, Bob Ezrin, he's the kind of guy that will lead. He's not going to assuage any egos kind of thing. He will get in there and say, "I'm the boss." He will tear apart songs. He'll move the chorus here and the verse there, and he'll routine the guys and make them work really hard. So there's a lot of his vision in that album, and a lot of that vision was coming up through the Alice Cooper group, but more so, like I say, Welcome to My Nightmare almost feels like, the sister album to Destroyer. So they do something very, very different on Destroyer versus Alive. And in a crude sense, what they're doing very different is Alive is this caranging, noisy, distorted thing, and Destroyer's the greatest production they've had to date. And then they kind of, as they put it, they go back with Rock and Roll Over. Well, they literally go back because they get Eddie Kramer in to produce it. But it's a little more back to basics, bare bones, simple. It's almost like with Destroyer, they had moved from the 11 and 12-year-old demographic up to the 14 to 18-year-old demographic, and then they got scared and wanted to go back to the younger demographic or something. But the reality, I guess, is that they saw the odd bad review and they didn't have Bob Ezrin back, which he laughs about at this point as well. But yeah, so two very different records, and very different from Alive as well, of course. Yeah.
Well, the other thing that's interesting to me is, and correct me if I'm wrong, this is the first time we hear outside performers on a Kiss record. And I know that there's some Wicked Lester stuff on the first three records, but this is where you're actually having outside songwriters too involved with this record. How much do you think that makes a difference? And like, is Ezra the guy that puts the bug in their ear? Is it Casablanca? What do you think shifts them from going four dudes from New York to like, oh, we need outside songwriters?
Yeah, there's a little bit of that going on. I mean, but so on the songwriting side, Bob is a smart guy that just is kind of looking for a good song no matter who does it. But there's not a lot of that goes on with Bob. But that along with well, if you can't do the solo ace, we'll get Dick Wagner in or something.
Right.
There's a little, both of those things are parallel. Like, you better watch your back, show up to work, show up sober, and all that sort of thing, and put in the hard work, or you will be replaced, kind of thing. And it's very similar to what happened on Get Your Wings, kind of thing. It's like, okay, these guys can do the job. You guys look on, and then of course, Joe Perry and Brad Whitford become these great guitarists over time. Everybody loves them, but it's the same sort of thing. So he's kind of just showing them who's boss and just trying to get from A to B very quickly.
Yeah, yeah, it's really interesting. Is there a certain month that you think is important in '76 for this band?
Boy, I've never really thought about it. I suppose March with Destroyer because at that time, they're literally simultaneously, and it's funny. One of the things that I sort of learned moving along is this slight obsession or people noting that the costumes are in flux as they're moving along. So yeah, that was a big month, and my memories of 1976. I mean, my memories are all linked to all these different albums that I talk about besides Kiss. But one of my main memories is getting Destroyer and listening to it and looking at it and all that, putting on the headphones and everything. But but yeah, the other thing I wanted to do with this book, I mean, that just reminded me. I mean, it does have three components to it, and I wrote them literally when I was writing this book. I love the layout. But I was surprised when I saw the layout because I wrote those three components per month to be equal parts. So one is Kiss, one is what's happening in the music business, and one is what's happening in wider pop culture kind of thing. So I had a bit of a pushback thinking, can we change this a little, that a little, when the stuff was along the bottom, and that sort of made the rule be that all those pictures of non-Kiss things had to be smaller. Um, which I didn't like very much because I actually wanted to have even more band shots of other bands in here and stuff.
Hmm.
And we didn't go that route. But I love the ads. The ads is a big thing to me. But yeah, so 76, I mean, Destroyer and Rock and Roll Over wouldn't even be my top favorite albums of that year. It's really more for me. The crown prince of albums for that year is Sad Wings of Destiny. And Aerosmith Rocks is everybody thinks that's the greatest Aerosmith album, me included.
Right.
And Rainbow Rising is that year as well. I
Yeah, there
remember
you go.
getting Rainbow Rising as kids. We thought, the one thing that sticks out about that is that, oh my God, this is the first album we've ever bought that has no mellow music on it whatsoever. It's 100% heavy throughout. We love that about that record, right? So yeah, there's all sorts of good stuff going on at that time. And then, the other point I wanted to make is that, not everything is about Kiss because you've still got Hotel California and Fleetwood Mac, and
Yep.
Frampton Comes Alive, and,
Yep.
the Stones and Zeppelin are still juggernauts. And so there's lots going on besides Kiss. And Kiss is not selling the kinds of, units that those other bands are selling.
No, but they're selling the merch though, right? That's probably where the big part of the merch starts happening in 76 also. Am I correct?
Yeah, definitely. And the other thing is that they're selling kind of the same amount of tickets as a lot of those bands. They're playing big venues and they're touring a lot. So I think when you put together the merch and the tickets and the records, they're kind of the same size bands as some of those bands. And this got me thinking as I've been, talking to people about this book. It reminded me of this concept I've thought about is like if the Pretenders have a platinum album in 1982 and Judas Priest has a platinum album in 1982, isn't Judas Priest still the bigger business because of, the amount of roadies needed and trucks and probably selling more tickets, probably playing bigger venues, probably selling more merch. Um, so I always wonder thinking of these non-extravagant hard rock bands versus the big productions like Kiss is like, even though if you sell the same amount of records, a band like Kiss could have a bigger business in
Yeah.
total than those other guys.
That's a great point. Am I
That's
crazy to say this too? And I don't know. I didn't think to do this research until right now. Was
Mhm.
Kiss's two biggest records basically in 75 and 76, basically Alive and Destroyer? Are those the two biggest selling Kiss records?
Well, an odd thing about Kiss, and this is a little bit of mystery among fans because we're always thinking that Kiss has sold more records in America. Let's just talk about RIAA for a second.
Sure.
Then they've gone out and got certifications for. So you think, they've got management, they've got Gene who likes to win and all that stuff. And you'd think they'd be so on top of their certifications. Because I know Aerosmith is, because David Krebs is a buddy of mine and he makes sure. Um, and Rush is one of those rare bands that you could go into RIAA month to month, check on. There's this cool thing you can check on. Hey, what's certified this month? And Rush is one of the old bands that will make sure their stuff is caught up. Now that might change now because they've got management issues. But just recently, I think both 2112 and Moving Pictures in recent years clicked up another platinum.
Oh wow!
But Kiss. So Kiss, let me see if I can remember this now because I always kind of forget. I think Destroyer is now double platinum. Rock and Roll Over is platinum. Alive has that thing going for it, going against it. Well, going for it actually, where you count both discs, and
Right.
yet it only is certifying as gold, and that
What?
absolutely blows everybody away.
Y-
But also, I think Smashes, Thrashes, and Hits, if that's right,
Yeah,
is double platinum.
yeah, that makes
And
sense.
they've got one or two other platinums in there as well. I know. I think Dynasty is platinum. Love Gun, I think, is platinum.
Wow.
So yeah. So that's another cool thing, and I think I have done a podcast episodes on that where some bands out there quietly have this massive selling greatest hits album that everybody kind of forgets about that is out there, and Kiss kind of has one of those. That Smashes Thrashes, and that filled a gap. I think that's an 87 or 88
88,
album. It's
88.
yeah, it
Yeah.
comes in this year where they don't have a studio album, and yet it's this big deal.
Well, and they're teasing the whole like makeup thing. Remember that? And that was the Rise to It video or something. Or at the end, they're showing them putting on.
Oh yeah,
Remember
yeah, I
Yeah.
that?
forgot about that.
And
Yeah,
it's kind of one of those things where it's like
yeah,
I think
yeah.
they're capturing guys, kids like me at that age because
Oh
I'm
yeah.
younger than both of you, and I'm buying like Cobo Hall in Houston back in the circus magazines and getting the videotapes at the house and just being
Yeah.
enamored. I mean, I remember Kiss when I was a little kid. But I wasn't listening to any of it until a little bit later. You know what I mean? But that's really surprising. But they always did that too, right? Didn't they do stuff where they'd ship things gold, and then
Yeah.
they wouldn't tell about how many returns happened, so it wasn't like
Yeah.
they were that
Yeah.
type of stuff. But I'm
Oh yeah,
surprised on Alive.
Casablanca. I interviewed Larry Harris once from Casablanca, who's no longer with us. But I think he said we did every trick in the book. Like they were all that stuff about trying to send your album further up the Billboard charts and stuff.
Yeah,
But yeah, albums would ship out in large quantities. I mean, they said that about those solo albums that they sold gold and shipped return platinum or something like that.
Yeah.
As the joke goes, right?
yeah.
But yeah.
I'm thinking about that Peter Criss album enough, thinking like, yeah, that's I can't see that one shipping gold.
Yeah, pretty funny.
Yeah, it's interesting though. I was very surprised when you told me how low the numbers were for Alive because that's almost like that Velvet Underground thing. You ever notice that where Velvet Underground didn't sell a lot of records, but it's like the most influentially name dropped record of all time? I think
Yeah.
for rock guys, like Kiss Alive is that record that people say Kiss Alive. That's what got me started. Kiss Alive, Kiss Alive. I would have thought that record would have been like 3 or 4 times platinum. That's really surprising to me. Because they
Yeah,
had rock
yeah.
and
I
roll,
don't
rock
know
and
what's
roll all
going
night
on
as a
there.
single, too.
Yeah, because the thing that makes it even more surprising is they don't really have a lot of label strife and major management war things, because I know that's part of the David Bowie story. I've got a buddy who was in court about a David Bowie album for years, and he knows the whole story about why Bowie albums are really not certifying higher than we think they are. But yeah, Kiss is one where things are pretty stable. You would think they would go back and do that, and being as entrepreneurial as they are, you would think they would make an event out of it, and they'd because I swear, I mean there must be a half dozen recertification levels for Kiss that they haven't gone and done. I remember doing a podcast episode once all about Ace of Spades, how it's probably gold now, and I did the math based on streams and all that, because that's the other thing that's driving these sales. Hey, Ace of Spades, I'm pretty sure. Can't remember how the math all worked out, but basically that's a gold album, and yet the three guys aren't alive, and they still have kind of management and promotion and stuff, but nobody seems to have the wherewithal or the impetus to go and get these things recertified. I've often thought, if somebody wants a cool job in the record business, put a shingle up and say, I'm your champion to go get your certifications. Literally, that could be a cool full-time job. The bulldog for certifications.
Well, I think it's smart too because like that certification, if you bump it up a notch, like and you find ones that, that's an interesting media selling point too to
Yeah.
garner some more interest
Yep.
into the band again.
Yeah,
Because
and I think it's I not everybody has to think this, but I think it's the coolest accomplishment. It's the thing I kind of measure things by, not Grammys certainly,
yeah.
Rock and Roll Hall of Fame maybe a little bit, and ticket sales and all that, and but really certifications just seems to be that really easy thing that everybody can understand that looks great.
Let me
Well,
ask. Go ahead.
it's more of a direct like reward because you've sold X amounts. That means this many people actually like you. Where the Grammys and things of that nature are like these people who sit in their ivory tower and decide whether or not you are worthy of things. Where record sales are like a very direct measurement of
Yeah,
how
and it's
much
easy
you've
to
touched
write about,
people's
right?
lives. Yeah,
It's just like
absolutely.
platinum selling album, you know?
Yeah,
It's
it's
so easy to
clean.
type. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true. Hey, I always like asking this to authors. Was there something that you learned that surprised you when you were writing this book about Kiss that you didn't know?
One thing actually is I was embarrassed to not know that there was that cool little sampler album that I'd never seen. I've still never seen one. There was this sampler of what was it of? Anyways, I ended up putting it in the discography. I like the way we did the discography too. It's just every single thing that happened in 1976. It's pretty funny. Oh yeah, here it is. Uh, Special Kiss Tour album. Then there's this Kiss Special Edition thing. But yeah, the Special Kiss Tour album was really cool. So I wonder what these things will go for. I'll have to check Discogs. But and then it's kind of neat to think that there were no singles off of Rock and Roll Over in 1976. They all
Right.
came in 1977.
Hmm.
So
Yeah,
that's kind
that
of
that
neat.
is interesting too. But they weren't a big singles band that time either, right? I mean, other than like, like the Beth on Accident, right? And then
Hmm.
Rock and Roll Night, and then what? Detroit Rock City, I'm assuming was a single. So was King of the Nighttime World, I'm assuming too. But they weren't like a
Yeah.
big. The singles didn't push the sales of that band.
No, and I don't think it really was ever it ever turned out to be a big deal. I mean, it kind of remained a guys band, and kind of in a way, I've seen this. This is kind of interesting over the year, talking to people about this, but also, to what extent were Kiss kind of a new kind of boy band in a way? And the reason you can kind of make that case is A, the young audience,
Hmm.
but B, the sort of the deliberate, intentional simplicity of their music. Because they could be more complicated if they wanted to, but they weren't. I mean, they certainly went more complicated through the hair metal years. They had Shredly stuff and OTT and speed metal and all that kind of stuff, Bruce Kulick and whatnot. But the other thing that kind of makes them that is this idea of having these four distinct characters,
Yeah.
visually speaking, and then also somebody pointed this out the other day that I thought was interesting that one of the components of a boy band is having multiple vocalists and having that vocal be ascribed to your personality in a way as well. And Kiss is a band with four great voices in the band and three great singers is the way I tend to put it because Ace is not the most accurate singer, but
Yeah.
the other three guys
Yeah.
can sing very effortlessly and accurately.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
all four of them have super interesting voices too.
Hmm.
So all of that kind of works that way. Obviously, they're not a boy band in the way that they're teenagers making this music, but in a bunch of other ways they kind of are, and obviously the music is much too heavy to be a boy band too.
Sure.
You got great points there because like I'm thinking of the boy bands that my sister liked when she was a kid, and it's like it's checking a lot of the boxes. There's one. Okay, so the merch thing is definitely a big thing too, right? Because the boy bands had
Yeah,
the merch, they had the merch,
yeah,
right? But here's maybe the one thing that would disqualify them for being a boy band is they didn't have a big girl following.
yeah. It's a good point. So they're a
Yeah.
boy band for boys.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right? But that's the
yeah.
one thing I always think about with that. It's like, I don't think there was a lot of girls going to Kiss concerts. I mean, I could be wrong. You know what I mean? I mean,
Mhm.
nowadays it seems like a family event. You know what I mean? I mean,
Yeah.
I know they're not playing anymore, but it seems like, you're taking it's like Metallica, right? Same thing. You've written about
Yeah.
Metallica plenty of times. It's like you'll see, the dad taking the kid or maybe even the grandpa, depending on how old or
Hmm.
young the grandpa is. And I mean, it's like this, it's like, where the legacy thing happens, where some bands are called legacy bands now. And it's like, I think it's just that it just keeps going where it's like they just get
Yeah.
reintroduced. And the funny thing is, there doesn't need to be any marketing behind that either, which is wild. If you think
Yeah.
about it, it's like you're just listening to in your car, and your kid's like, "Who's that?" That's the
Yeah.
extent of the marketing, which is wild.
Yeah.
What are you doing next, my friend? You always got a book or two or five or 10 in the oven. So what's the next on the
Well,
agenda?
I'm trying to think if there's anything I'm allowed to say because I generally want the publisher to stick something up on their website saying this book is coming. And
Sure.
then I see people ask me about it on Facebook and I go, oh, it looks like they've announced this book kind of thing.
Right.
So I'll just say this. So I will kind of have to keep it all secret, but I think I have I added up now that this is out, I think I have 8 books long finished and in various stages of undress. Um, to come out over the next this year and early into 2027. So yeah, there's 8 things. And what else can I say about them? Let's see, one for the UK, and let's see, a series of 4 different things for another publisher plus 2.
Yeah.
So hang on, 4 plus 2 is 6, plus 1 is 7. Actually 9. Yeah, there still
9.
is 9. So 2 more Quarto books as well.
Wow.
So,
You're the
but
hardest
very
working author,
recently, above
man.
my head here, these are all very recent and huge. Is
Yeah.
the Iron Maiden books that's 666 pages, the Deep Purple that's 640 pages, and peeking out the corner there, the Dio that's 440 pages. Those are all full color throughout. Hundreds of pictures, but lots and lots of words too, hardcover. So that's all recent. And then right above my head are a bunch of reissues. With Weimer, we tend to do updates. Something sells, it goes out of print. The band puts out another album or something. We go, okay, well, time to do an update. Quarto does that too. They've had me update my AC/DC at 50 recently. But so I've got an update of the Merciful Fate, the Max Webster, the Accept, the Scorpions, and the White Snake. So those all came out recently too.
Wow.
Wow, you are the busiest author I know, my
Dude.
friend. It's amazing.
Well, I'm one of
Impressive.
the only ones where it's my main job. It's pretty much my only job. I mean, I do a bunch of other stuff, and half of it is for almost no money
Right.
at all. So it really is my main job. So all these other people that are doing this, and there's some regulars that are getting 10, a dozen books under their belts now. People younger than me writing about these same bands.
Right.
But I suspect it's not their main job. I think all of them have another job.
Yeah, and when I love what Quarto does, I mean, just to let people know, obviously you're on talking about the book. We'll sell the book here for a second. If you're a fan of a band, that they do an insane job of like setting the book up as something that you want to buy. I mean, it's not like you would look at this and flip through some pages in your local bookstore and go, oh, okay, cool. Like you're pretty much walking out with this book. You know what I mean? It's it's very impressive. Every single one that we've done an interview, with I had a podcast on, they're really immersive, and I think that's the real neat thing about them.
I love the layouts. I love how they did the little tour date thing, and the cover looks great. The cover's amazing. And one thing that's really nice about Quarto is there's really no. I'm kind of contracted just to turn in the text, and then often Dennis these days, because he seems to be getting busier. In the old days, he used to even he still sources all the pictures, picks all the pictures because he's a great music guy himself, and he knows, that I don't want to put in too much stuff here that everybody's seen before.
Sure.
But in the old days, he used to even write the captions, and now I write the captions.
Okay.
But I don't have to worry about any of that budget stuff with them. I mean, they've got the deals set up with the photo agencies and stuff. So I'm not doing any of the sweating over pictures. And then I just get a beautiful layout back, and I have very little complaints about them generally. And I just make my few little changes changes and typos and move this here and that there, and write all my captions, and that's it. So yeah, I love that about these books too. I can just not even worry about pictures.
Yeah, it's got to be a nice
Yeah.
surprise too. Like when you get it back and you look at it and you see another artistic view towards the pictures that are put towards your words, which like they always line up. You know, the books that I have, and I've had you on a couple times. It's like they're always visually exciting. You know, for me, a lot of times I'll put on the records as I'm like
Yeah.
going through the books because to me it's like I fully get immersed in. You know, it's like I'm not a real big fan of the coffee table book because it sounds like a book that no one picks up. Like this is a
Mhm.
book like you'll flip through quite a bit, and there's enough meat on the bone too that you can enjoy learning about that time in history. Like we talked about earlier today, '76 was a big year for rock
Mhm.
bands. I mean, and that's
Yep.
right before the new wave punk disco like juggernaut, right? So this is like one of the last years before that all hits, and then everything's in that state of flux, right? You know what I mean? I would assume, you
Yeah,
know?
and I also like about it that two things are happening in the heavy metal world in a way. It's like the original awesome heavy metal guard has been decimated. You know, like Deep Purple gone, Uriah Heep crappy, Black Sabbath low batteries, Led Zeppelin kind of just still being the same thing, but you know, there's not much left to come from Led Zeppelin. So it's the finally the rise of American hard rock. I mean, essentially, you had this little clump of kind of helping invent it with Blue Cheer and the Stooges and MC5 and Amboy Dukes and SRC or whatever. The little Detroit thing, and then America kind of sits it out. There's really no good American hard rock or heavy metal from 1970 through to like the beginnings of Aerosmith, Blue Oyster Cult, Kiss, Ted Nugent as a solo artist. And 75, 76 is the first time all of those bands simultaneously, they all see success, and nobody's talking about the UK anymore. But the other thing I love about this era is it's kind of the rise of what I call the second wave of British heavy metal, um,
Mm.
which is the rise of Nazareth, Thin Lizzy, UFO, the birth of Rainbow, the rise of Judas Priest. So you get this nice little clump of the next, oh, here comes the UK back again, kind of thing. And so from right now until the end of the decade, you have this sort of like the young UK bands doing great stuff, and you've got America finally having some massive hard rock acts, and then the new wave British heavy metal hits.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
great point, man.
That's
Because in my head, I'm thinking 78, 78, 79. You've got Van Halen, The Blizzard of Oz, Iron Maiden. You've got some stuff popping right in there too. And then I think that's the explosion happens. By
Yeah.
82, I feel like we're
Mhm.
in just,
Yeah, Van Halen's an anomaly. So Van Halen's almost like this. It's almost like the second wave of American heavy metal for the first time. It's like you've got like Van Halen, Riot, Gamma's coming up.
early Def
You've
Leppard.
got Moxie and Tease and Rush.
Yep.
So Rush is part of this wave from Canada. A bunch of Canadian bands, April Wine. Um,
Mhm.
but yeah, so with the new wave of British heavy metal, you also get a bunch of old bands doing well all of a sudden again. Priest gets a commercial bump. Sabbath comes back with Ronnie.
Yep.
Iron Maiden starts in 1980, with a full album. Ozzy, Michael Schenker and UFO. You get two great bands for one, starting right around then. So the neat thing is that all of heavy metal is doing great in 1980, 1981. These young guys come up, and the excitement around them causes all the old guys to have good careers too. Scorpions is another one.
Yeah.
Starts
Mm.
better.
Yeah, great example. I mean, yeah, and then you've got your Twisted Sister, your Quiet Riot. You've
Yep.
got Rat. You've got yeah. I mean, it's kind of funny how like the torch just kind of keeps getting pushed. You know what I
Well,
mean? And
that's a
everybody
cool thing
survives
because
disco.
yeah, and what I love, and I think there might be a book concept in this at some point that I might want to do, but taking it back to Kiss, so when hair metal starts, I now maintain that Kiss is kind of the greatest hair metal band of all time because they are there right day one, 1983 with Lick It Up. They got an album in 84, an album in 85, an album in, I think it's 87, 80. Anyways, there's like 5 studio albums and that greatest hits album we talked about. So they're there the entire time. They dress more like hair metal people than any other hair metal band, period. Every album ticks off all the boxes of hair metal stuff with the lyrics, with the speed metal, the shredding, the commercial songs, the big gang vocals, the song doctors. So they are there the entire time. They're doing quite well the entire time. Now they don't have the big 6 times platinums and all that kind of stuff. They don't have the big Bon Jovi, Cinderella, Poison albums, Guns N' Roses, but they are literally there from the beginning to the end, past the end, because they even give us the best album more or less of all of that with Revenge in 1992.
Yep.
So they're there from 83 to 92 the entire time, and almost nobody else is that prolific during that. I mean, even Rat starts to get a little spotty, and Quiet Riot gets spotty, and Great White, they're around, I guess, but really, it's just so funny how Kiss, being this old band from the 70s, like pulls the wool over everybody's eyes and says, no, we're the greatest hair metal band. So yeah, I think that's pretty funny about what they do.
You know, that's a great point. And the other thing too, forgive me if I get this wrong, because my Kiss in the 80s isn't that strong. Like, they basically don't care about the ballad for a good 6 or 7 of those years until forever, right? I mean, I still love you on
Right.
Creatures, but like they don't have a ballad hit where it's like Ballad World from like 80, 85 to 90, where it's like if you're putting out a record and you're a hair metal band or that type of rock band, it's like you got the rock hit and then you follow it up with the ballad, the 1-2 punch. They didn't really do that in that decade.
That's an excellent point. I never thought
great,
about that.
yeah.
But you're right. I mean, most of their hits are just rock songs.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, and then Forever, like, and I think that's a Michael Bolton tune with them, right? If I remember correctly.
Yeah, I don't know. And
Think so.
there's Hide Your Heart that Ace does at the same time, which is really weird.
That was weird too.
It's
Yeah.
like Russ Ballard or something.
But
Maybe.
no, I don't think that one's Russ Ballard. I think it's
It's not.
somebody else. But yeah, all your Desmond Child and Diane Warren and all that stuff. Kiss is doing all that. They're doing every single hair metal move in the book.
Yeah. And you know what's funny? And they don't get talked about it. Like when you people talk about hair metal, it's never talked about Kiss, and I wonder if it's because of like a year, like to bring it back, 1976, where the makeup and everything, that's how people remember Kiss for the most part, so they don't get lumped into that hair metal. Because like Animalize, Jesus, I mean that's you want to
Asylum,
talk
dude.
about them like going in the deep end with no swimmies and just diving in headfirst off the diving board. That's Animalize. I mean, that's like you can't get more hair metal than that. You know what I mean? So
Absolutely.
I think Asylum one ups it.
Oh yeah.
That Tears Are Falling video is the glammest glam thing ever glam.
Yeah.
It really is.
I don't think you're wrong, Martin. Man, I always love talking to you. It's such a you know your stuff so well, and it's such a great little history lesson for me every time you come on the show. And we're so grateful that you came on again, talked about a band that's so important to the three of us, especially that time period for sure. And it gets a little peek into the window on why, if you're listening to the show, you should buy this book. Even if you're really not a big Kiss fan, it's a good book to have. I mean, it's just beautiful, to be honest with you. So before we let you go, Martin, Mark, is there anything you want to add?
No, I would echo everything that you said. And like, I would highly recommend any Kiss fan to pick this book up. It's really, really stunning. And I have learned a lot just in this last little bit and about something I thought I knew some things about, which seems to be Martin's way.
Always
He's taught me a ton of shit. And
Pretty cool,
I
Mark.
appreciate
Thanks very
it.
much.
Absolutely.
Awesome. All right, Martin. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show today. As always, my friend, always a great talk and really enjoy picking up some more knowledge. And best of luck on this book. I hope you sell a ton of it because it's way worth it for Kiss fans to pick this one up.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, guys. Talk to you later.
We'll talk to you soon, my friend. Friend of the show has been on many a times. He's just the coolest dude. He's just the nicest guy, and his knowledge is just insane, man. Like it's
well, and
Oh
It's
yeah.
like just off the rip, he can cite all these things, and it's
Well, when
impressive.
when you write like 8,000 books on hard rock and heavy metal,
Yeah, I mean,
I mean,
yeah,
he's a national treasure to me, man.
I think so.
You know, he really
You
is.
know, Canadian and otherwise. I think
Yes.
the
Yes.
guy's his knowledge and callback of it, and just I would assume his passion for this for music in general is just really impressive.
You can
It
still
was
hear it in his voice. That's what I
yeah,
love. You know what I mean?
there's
And
excitement in his voice
right.
when
You know, and I try to stay away from the dumb questions because who needs them, you know? Because people will be like, "Oh, how do you still find the blah 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 to do it?" And it's like,
right,
we don't need to ask a dumb question like that because you know what? It's obvious he loves it.
yeah,
You know what I
well,
mean? Like he
clearly,
loves doing what he does. Like why ask a dumb question like that? You know what I mean? But you
yep,
can hear it in his voice. And that to me
yes,
makes me really happy where it's like I don't feel like he's writing books because it's a paycheck. You know, I know obviously it's his work,
yeah,
but I
of
feel like he
course,
enjoys he enjoys diving deep and like I said in the beginning of the episode, right? What a great year to pick.
yeah,
1976 is a great year to pick because a lot of people that know Kiss that don't know Kiss don't really understand the story of Kiss. You
it's
know, like we
true.
talked about, like they almost get dropped. You just think, like we talked about, Martin, both you and both Martin had really good points about that, where they were basically like, "We're the biggest band. You need to hop on board," and like they
Yep.
always did the whole "fake it till you make it" thing. So when you
Hmm.
saw that, you're like, "Man, who is this band? This is insane." Oh, it's Kiss. Like that's how you thought about it. You didn't think, "Oh, if they don't do well on this record, Casablanca is going to drop them." I mean, I don't think I was ever thinking until later on when people started learning about the history of how everything worked, right?
Well, I mean, think about it. On Live, there's the famous intro, which I assume they did every night up until then.
Yeah, you
The
are the
hottest
best
band in
in
the
the
world,
world. Kiss.
and they fucking weren't.
No, they weren't.
But like I said, they acted as if
I
like
sure believed it.
dress for the job you want, right?
Yeah. But
Like,
right off the bat, man, when you turn on Alive,
yep.
and the thing that's funny about Alive, that's why I asked them a couple of those questions, is I really dig the first three studio albums a lot. I
Oh yeah.
like it because it's the four of them. I like it because there's no outside guys. I
Yep.
like it because you can feel the vibe and whatnot. But those songs are played better on Alive.
Oh,
Like those
definitely.
songs
Yes.
should have been faster on the studio records, and you just get this like, oh, this is what you're supposed to be. Now I went
Hmm.
backwards. Kiss Alive was one of the first things I had. So when I got
Right.
Hotter Than Hell, I was like, man, there's some great songs on here, the ones that weren't on the record, but I'm like, holy shit, these tempos are slow.
Yeah.
You know, and it just
No, they're like they're neutered a little bit on the
yes.
studio album,
Yeah.
and live it's like they're off the chain
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah.
It's
It's crazy, right? It's one of those
it
things.
is.
And 76 as we went through it today and buy the book because it's amazing. Like you
Yes.
realize, touring off Alive, that's such an
Hmm.
interesting concept, right? You always think like they did the tour and then here's the live album after the tour, but like no, we're gonna tour off the album that we just released that was the live album.
Yeah, it's interesting, and I never even considered that like
No,
bands would tour
no, I didn't
a
either.
live album.
And
But I mean, I guess
it makes
like Martin had
sense.
said, it makes perfect sense, and really to the point. Like Kiss was, Paul has said it shamelessly forever that they're a brand, not a band.
Yeah.
And so, like, if you have product out and you're going to go promote that product.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it's just your job.
And
Is like,
you're not wrong.
you know,
I mean, you're not wrong at all, and I think it's it shows. I think it shows too because when you get to a live two, the songs on those records before live two have more energy to them.
yes,
Do you notice that? You
yes,
know, it's a great time period, and I'm glad that he talked about the other bands in that time period too,
yep,
because there was a lot going on in that decade. I mean, not decade, excuse me, that year, that
yeah,
decade in general. But that year there was a lot going on because nothing's the same after that for the next 2 or 3 years. The
no,
new wave, the disco, the punk, that movement, where a lot of these bands are now called dinosaur bands from
yep,
like in real time.
yes,
And then think about this. Here's the crazy thing. I could be wrong about this, but I don't think any of those guys in any of those bands, like, like the Zeppelins, the Sabbath, Kiss, Deep Purple, I don't think any of them were even 30 years old when they were being called dinosaur rock.
Yeah, probably not. I mean, maybe Peter,
Right. But isn't that
you
weird
know.
though when you think about
Yeah.
it? Like you're being called dinosaur rock and you're not even 30 years old.
Yeah. I think you're guilty by association, from the rock bands that came up, and it's the first example of like dad rock.
Yeah.
Like that happened where it's like, oh no, that's your old man's rock and roll, or the burnouts that sit at the end of the parking lot. Like
It's weird,
by
right?
by 77 with punk rock crashing in, it's like, oh, Zeppelin? Nah, that's
It,
old hat,
it's
you
crazy how
know.
it's only like 6, 7 years too. That's the wild thing.
If that, yeah,
Well,
it's
and
it's
Kiss was
quick.
like 4 years, 3 years, if you think about it.
Yeah, well, and Kiss, we talked about it, but we didn't talk about it. It is interesting because even though they probably were sort of chastised by the time disco is in like 78, 79, they just wrote a fucking disco song.
Yeah, and
And it's
and
the same thing for the hair metal thing. Is like, and we talked about it in some of the other episodes. Go back and listen. Um, Paul, I assume, was driving this bus, but he was like, okay, so if you look at the way their look changed, it was a pure reflection of whatever was happening,
yes,
but it was like their version of it.
yes,
Because Lick It Up, they kind of looked like a Nawabum band.
yes, they
It's
did.
it's jeans and ripped up shirts and a
Yeah,
little bit of leather, and then Animalize, it's fucking animal print galore, and Asylum, it's a Technicolor fucking nightmare with fringe and
then Hot in the
neon.
Shade.
Hot in the Shade, they're dressing down a little bit. Crazy Nights, it's kind of the same. I mean,
Oh my
they
God.
they were so smart at being able to stay relevant by just mimicking whatever was happening
And
and doing it their
just
way.
little
just
turns
just
too, if you think about
shifts.
it. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Really, really. I mean, you can accuse Kiss of being a lot of things, but dumb generally isn't one of them.
No, no, they
As far
were.
as business goes,
Yeah, they're very calculated.
they're like ICP. They're real fucking smart about business. That's right.
How do
I said that.
how do magnets work?
Yep. Nobody knows.
Oh, it's so good, dude. So good. Yeah, it's just always great to have Martin on. I'm glad you got to experience at this time. Such just a coolest guy. If we have him on again, he'll be the same way. Just a
Yeah.
really cool, nice guy, generous with his time, like really wanting to talk about, music. And we sit
Yeah.
and we get educated. And you guys got educated
Dude,
today too.
seriously.
I know you
Yeah.
did for sure.
Yep.
So speaking of that, thank you everybody that's been listening to the show, reposting the show, telling friends about the show. Numbers are always up, which has been great.
Hmm.
We appreciate all that stuff. We got some good guests coming soon, which we'll be very excited about. And we're just
Yes.
having a good time, man, just talking about music. So hopefully you're listening to more music. And I know I've been listening to a lot of music because of certain guests we might have on soon, which has been fun
Hmm.
to go back and listen to the old stuff, but listening to some of the newer stuff. Some of the people from back in the day are releasing some pretty good shit, ladies and
That
gentlemen.
is true.
Don't sleep on it, man. I'm telling you what. Mr. Moose, is there anything you want to add before we get out of here?
Um, Go buy Martin's book. Shit, buy all of them. You'd end up with like 180 books. It'd be awesome.
And one other thing, if you're listening to this episode and you get to the end or you started at the beginning, big shout out to your bandmate Jess for
Yes.
recording us doing a brand spanking new.
New theme song.
Exactly, man. We'll just do quick credits. You're playing the rhythm guitar on that. You wrote the
Yep.
badass riff. I play the lead
Yep.
stuff.
Yep.
Jess did the drums. Jess did the bass.
Yeah.
So kind of kept it
So
all in house, which was fun.
I hope y'all dig what you're hearing.
Yes, absolutely. And if you're hearing all of that, then the Patreon should be up, and so should the
Yep.
YouTube. So
Yes.
there's other places to consume stuff. We will be throwing some really cool, fun stuff on the Patreon that we will not be putting it up anywhere else. It's just for
That's
you
right.
guys that really want more of us. We're throwing more stuff up on there for you guys. So I hope you enjoy the content. And then there's always a message type board on there. So you can say, hey, man, it'd be cool if you did this on your show. Hey, man, it'd be
Hmm.
cool if you could do this on your show. And It's just a little more streamlined and organized than a
Yep.
a Facebook thing where half the time no one sees your fucking page,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
is frustrating. Patreon, it's if you show up to the Patreon, you see what we post. It's a
Yep.
beautiful thing. So anyway, ladies and gentlemen, thank you, Jess. Thank you, friends, for hanging out. Thank you for enjoying our shows. And like I said, always be good to each other. Be good to yourselves. Spread the word. Text a friend. Say hi. We'll talk to you soon.